Thanks for watching HBC Channel 25. Dean Beckman along with Sports Information Director Donny Nadeau. This is the Cardinals Nest, the sports show devoted exclusively to St. Mary's University athletics. And Donny, a little bit later here on the Cardinals Nest during the interview segment, will meet yet another new head coach at St. Mary's, Kevin Landrum. Even though he's been at St. Mary's for a few years now, this is his first year as head coach for the men's and women's golf team. We've had on the new head coach for the women's soccer team, the new head coach for the men's soccer team, now another new coach with golf, and Kevin will be on along with one of his seniors, Gia Puch, will be on the show with us a little bit later.
Yeah, and we just found out while we were off camera that for 4 years I've been pronouncing Gia's name wrong. So at least we got it right when she's on TV, and it'll be fun to have Kevin on because you know, Kevin is currently the assistant men's basketball coach, and we've talked a lot about the Landrum pair there in basketball, and he's been the assistant golf coach for the last 3 years, and now that he takes over the program as a head coach, kind of see where he wants the program to go, and you know, the women are doing outstanding right now and playing some very good golf, and in 2 weeks they've got the MIAC championship, so hopefully we can get some insight on what he expects from that, and hopefully Gia can tell us how she's going to be all conference this year.
All right, well, let's hope, and certainly timely having both Kevin and Gia on the show with their big meets coming up over the next couple of weeks here. Before we get to that, though, we'll do a wrap-up of the previous week in St. Mary's sports, and we begin with volleyball, Donny, and the volleyball team has finally started conference play. They did so last Wednesday night at home against McAllister. They don't have too many home matchups, and so it was nice to get the conference season started off at home against the Scots, and St. Mary's really dominated that matchup. They have to play a lot of new, younger players now because of some injuries, namely to Amy Kuyak. She's out now, and so some different players like Kara Grant, a freshman, really stepping up, and that was a big win they had last week against McAllister, 3-0.
Absolutely, and it was a dominating performance. They took control from the opening serve, and they really never let up. I mean, it was a match that lasted about 45 minutes, which is extremely quick for a three-set collegiate match. But they played very well. And you're right. You know, when Amy went down with an injury that she suffered in Massachusetts, it certainly changes the dynamic of the Cardinals, and the fact that now some of those freshmen really have to step up into maybe a little bigger role than Coach Lester wanted them to at this stage in the season and this stage in their careers. But you know, Kara Grant's done a great job. Molly Grover, you know, Mary Nordic, all these young players are going to see some significant playing time now, and you know, it's not just the newcomers either. You got Sabrina Bushlack, who's going to need to pick up some slack, and Carissa Hahn's been doing very well. So it's really a mix now, and they're not going to be able to rely on Amy in the middle, and it's you know, it's certainly going to hurt the Cardinals, but there's a lot of talent on that team, and people are just going to have to pick up the slack.
Yeah, another player that I don't think you mentioned that can play in a very imposing way, although she doesn't look imposing initially, and that's Kaylee Bunny. She has a very powerful spike, and that was on display a few times against McAllister.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when you look at some of those, and Carissa Hahn's in that boat as well. They're not these tall, imposing figures, but boy, they can get up and they can swing it, and when they connect, boy, it's you know, it's pretty fun to watch. And again, you know, Kaylee's another one that Coach Lester's going to need to rely on to maybe step up and fill a little bigger role than she's used to, or that she's had to do in the past. So, you know, hopefully things will work out well with Amy. I know she's having surgery right now on her knee, and hopefully things will work out. She's still planning on trying to come back this year for that senior season, so hopefully things will work out there. But until she's back, people are just going to have to pick up the slack and keep going.
Yeah, great to hear that it may not be a season-ending injury, and time will tell on that, but that's good to hear. Unfortunately for the Cardinals, after that MIAC season-opening victory against McAllister over the weekend, they were defeated by Augsburg 3-1. But a slew of close matches in that one. That one definitely could have gone either way. Unfortunately, that was on the road up there in Minneapolis, and the Cardinals fall 3-1. One of those players you mentioned, Mary Nordic, really had a nice performance in that one.
Absolutely. And, you know, we can talk to any coach, you know, whether it be basketball, hockey, soccer, volleyball. When you go on the road in the MIAC, it's a tough thing to do. You know, the conference is extremely tough to begin with, but then when you've got to play games on the road, they're very difficult. And you know, I talked to Coach Lester after that match, and he said, you know, there were times we played very well in that match. There were times that Augsburg played very well in that match. And then there were other times where we didn't play so well. And he said that it's that inconsistency that they need to try and overcome and be more consistent. And when you've got a lot of young people in the lineup, you're going to see some of that inconsistency just from a standpoint of they're not used to the collegiate game yet. And so they've played 10 matches, but that's not a whole lot of matches when you're asking young players to step in and do some pretty big things.
As we tape this, they're getting set to play St. Kate's on Wednesday night, but definitely now this is the critical part of the season, the streak of MIAC games, and really no conference matchups except for a few tournaments here and there, Donnie, and so a critical time in their schedule. We'll see if the young players, how they handle it, how they step up. And in the MIAC, there is not a weak opponent, especially in volleyball. And you can say that about a lot of sports. But volleyball in particular, year in and year out, has several ranked teams from the MIAC.
Absolutely. And the Wednesday night match against St. Kate's is a big match. It's, now that St. Mary's is 1-1 in the conference, St. Kate's is one of those teams that's going to be right in that mix for that 3, 4, 5, 6 spot in the MIAC tournament race. And so, yeah, every match is important. And they can't take anybody for granted. They've got to go up, and it's on the road, and like I just said, a tough place to play. There are going to be no secrets in that match because the head coach at St. Kate's now is Corey Phelps, who was Mike Lester's assistant for 6 years, so he knows St. Mary's very well, and Mike knows Corey's strategies in terms of how he coaches. So it's going to be a match that certainly could go either way. Wouldn't be surprised if next week we're talking about a 3-2 decision, win or loss, but I probably wouldn't be surprised if it goes 5 sets.
Sure. All right, in men's soccer action, Donnie, another conference opener for the Cardinals against St. Thomas this time, and the Cardinals led for much of this game, but St. Thomas comes back late and takes a 2-1 victory away from the Cardinals.
Yeah, I tell you what, with Coach Watkins right now, he's just got to be scratching his head because they've played 6 games and all 6 of them have been decided by 1 goal. And so, you look at their record, they're 1-4-1 on the season, but yet, a break here or there, and it could easily probably be 4-1-1. And the St. Thomas game was another one of those games that, they played very well. They played right with St. Thomas. St. Thomas is a very good team, and it was, it was a battle, from the get-go. But St. Thomas came up with a goal late in the second half to earn the victory. And the same thing could be said last week when they played St. Olaf. They lost 1-0. It was a goal about 12 minutes into the second half that decided the game in a 1-0 game. And so one of the things that Coach Watkins has said, and he's got to do, is he's got to find a way to put the ball in the net. Offensively, they're not an offensive juggernaut right now, and he's doing some juggling of his lineup and trying to find places to fit everybody that's going to best serve their team as well as the individuals themselves. So he's put some people back in the back row that aren't used to playing in the back row, and returned some people up front who are used to playing up front. So hopefully they can get that offense on track.
Well, and while they may not be an offensive juggernaut, what has worked for them offensively is the corner kick. They have a few corner kick goals this year. Jermaine Venter getting the latest in that 2-1 loss to St. Thomas.
Yeah, in fact, their last 2 goals have both come off corner kicks, and really that's a great weapon. If you can convert on your corner kicks, that's a huge advantage for you. And they've got both of their last 2 goals on corners, and so something is working. Now what they have to do is get some more goals in a normal setting.
Yeah. Reading between the lines a little bit, Donnie, I think Pete Watkins may be a little bit upset with the second half performance against St. Olaf. He thought they played really well up to their capabilities in the first half, and maybe didn't play to their potential in the second half.
Yeah, it was certainly in the St. Olaf game especially, it was a tale of 2 halves. St. Mary's dominated the first half, played very well, probably the best soccer they've played all year in that first 45 minutes. Problem was in that second 45 there was a bit of a letdown, especially early on, right from the beginning of the second half. St. Olaf took advantage of that and actually scored on kind of a miscommunication on a couple of St. Mary's defenders, and in a game of soccer, one mistake is really all it takes, and all of a sudden you're down 1-0, and St. Olaf packed things back and played very well defensively, and St. Mary's just couldn't generate any offense in that second half to get that tying goal.
Sure. And then, Donnie, in women's soccer action, Shannon Hannon McGill now comes back to St. Mary's, a former player back in the late 1990s, now the head coach for the University of St. Thomas, and she brings her squad, St. Thomas, here and hands St. Mary's a 2-0 loss.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. It would have been nice to give Sheila a little send-off and say, thanks for coming. But
Sheila Hannon,
yep,
I said
Sheila.
Shannon.
She was a great player in the late 90s. I was working here when she was going to to school here, outstanding player and a very good coach. She's got that St. Thomas team doing some very good things, and they were a tough team. You know, they were very good, and you know, they took it to us and came away with the 2-0 win. And then, you know, we turned around on Saturday and had a quick mental letdown. St. Olaf scored 2 goals in the span of 14 seconds to go up 2-0, scored another goal in the first half. It was a 3-0 game, and they went on to win 3-0. I talked to Coach Cassidy just yesterday, and you know, he said we're playing very, very good in the second half. The problem is the first half hasn't been as good, and what they need to do is figure out a way to play in the first half the way they're playing in the second half. And if they can do that, you know, they're going to be right in these games. Again, like we talked about with the men, they've got to find a way to get the ball in the net. They haven't scored in their last 2 games, and you know, you're not going to win any games if you can't put the ball in the net.
And, you know, we had Neil Cassidy on the show here last week on the Cardinals Nest, and he's a cool cat in that you can tell that he understands that he has a very young squad, that there's a little bit of rebuilding going on, and I don't see him getting bothered by the fact that, okay, we lost 2-0, lost 3-0. We know it's a process. We know it's going to take a little bit of time. As long as the players we have develop, as long as I can start recruiting some more players, we're going to get this thing turned around. You definitely get that sense from him.
Oh, no question. He's in this for the long haul, and he knows that it's going to take some time. And you know, but in the same respect, he hates to lose, and you know, that drives him. And you know, he's as determined as anybody to win. And I don't think he'd be one of those people that's going to use the crutch of we're young, you know, or we're rebuilding. He understands that, but he also knows that you know, he's got some talented players on this team, and they certainly have the ability to play with anybody in the conference. Right now, it's that consistency. You know, as we talked with about Coach Watkins and the men's team, the problem for the women has been that first half, and you know, they play outstanding in the second half. You know, they play St. Olaf, a team that's nationally ranked, to a 0-0 tie in the second half. Unfortunately, in the first half, they gave up those 3 goals. So it's that consistency on both the men's and women's teams that they've got to do a better job of being more consistent from the start of the game until that final horn.
And the women's soccer team back in action Wednesday night this week. The men's team, they get a little bit of a break, not having to go until the weekend on Saturday.
Right, they don't play until Bethel, and both teams are actually home on Saturday against Bethel, which will be great to have a doubleheader at home. So we're looking forward to that.
All right, in men's and women's cross-country action, Donnie, the men's team is continuing really strong. They took, I think, 5th place out of several teams, 13, 14 teams in their last invitational. David Feather continues to run well, and so the men really hitting their stride at a critical time of the year.
Yeah, and you look at David Feather. We talked about, at the last time we taped, we talked about David in their first meet. He was struggling a little bit of injury-wise. He's healthy now. Ran in that St. Olaf Invitational and did an outstanding job. He finished 11th individually with a time of 26:23, which is a great. It's his 3rd fastest time, and you know, David's an outstanding collegiate runner, and for him to turn in his 3rd fastest time in just the 2nd meet of the season, that certainly bodes well for the future for David. Peter Borash had a great meet as well, and so on the men's side, there's a lot of determination. I think it kind of started last year about this time when they had that No Limit Invitational at home. They decided that, you know what, there's more to this than just running. We want to succeed. We want to be a good team. They put in a lot of time over the summer. They did a lot of miles, and it's showing already. And I know that Coach Barrett is excited about this weekend when they host that No Limit Invitational again, because he knows that those guys are ready to go, and they're ready to really kind of make some noise.
Well, and the other thing to point out about that St. Olaf Invitational, those were longer races than what St. Mary's had been accustomed to.
Right, absolutely. It's the first of, you know, for the rest of the season now, they'll run an 8K for the guys and a 6K for the women. On the first meet of the season, they ran a 4-mile and a 5K. So it was definitely a longer race, and you know, that's what it'll be now from here on out. Most of the invitationals that they have, but it's an adjustment for the younger people. You know, none of these freshmen run 8Ks in high school. They don't run 6Ks in high school. So the distance is different, and so you need to get used to that. It's a whole different, you know, it's a whole different animal at college compared to high school. So there's an adjustment period, and I wouldn't be surprised to see some of the younger people really start to step up as the season creeps closer to the MIC championships.
Right. It's a busy weekend for cross country at St. Mary's. Friday is the No Limit Invitational. How many teams there?
There's 13.
Okay, and I know Cotter has a home meet up at St. Mary's as well on Saturday, the Cotter High School teams.
Well, the trails are the best around, so it's a great place to compete, and you know, the high schools love to compete there too, because it really is it's a very tough course.
Yeah. From a cross-country standpoint, is there a little bit more of a home home
absolutely.
racing field advantage, given the fact that the hills are pretty tough?
Absolutely. They, St. Mary's, they train on those hills, so they know where the hills are. They know how steep they are. They know, the grade in terms of if there's a gradual climb, a gradual decline. So there's certainly an advantage, but it's very tough to run there. So, I know Coach Barrett loves to have meets here, but it's a very, very difficult course. Toughest one that they'll run on all season long.
I was going to say home court advantage, but it doesn't apply when we're talking cross
Right.
country. Donny, in a minute we're going to have Kevin Landrum, the head women's and men's golf coach, on. I want to touch on the men's golf team because Gia Puch will also be on the show from the women's team, so we'll talk maybe a little more women's golf in just a minute here. But on the men's side, some definite improvement, and they just got back from the St. John's Invitational, where Tim Wolford turned in a very nice performance.
Yeah, he turned in a really solid score, 79 the first round, and came back with an 85 the second. I think that you'll discover when Coach Landrum comes on, he's got a little bit of a cold going. The weather was not very good last weekend, either in Lake City or up in the St. Cloud area for the guys, and it was very tough playing. I talked to assistant coach Ryan Egan after the match up in the St. Cloud area, and he said it was very tough on Saturday, and that it was cold and windy, and then on Sunday it rained all day, along with being cold and windy. So it was very tough, and for Tim to come through with a 79 that first day, he slipped a little bit with an 85 the second, and I know Coach Landrum will say the same thing on the guys' side. There has to be more consistency. If you look at their top 3 players, we've got 2 scores in the 70s. They got to get more scores in the 70s if they're going to compete, and they have the ability. They've proven that they can do it. It's just a matter of doing it on a more consistent basis.
And then after Tim, it was the familiar names of Ethan Austin and Will Johnson coming in second and third for the Cardinals. All right, stay tuned here to the Cardinals Nest. Coming up next, we'll bring Kevin Landrum on along with Gia Puch right here on HBC Channel 25.
College game day rolls on to East Alabama. Boise is reserved for the White House, and it is a sight to see.
Coming up on College game day.
That's the most science we've ever seen.
How can you pick against LSU?
This offense continues to develop.
Not so fast, my friend.
Who wins the game?
Is there any question at all?
What was I thinking?
The Badgers with the upset.
Who's getting carried away?
College Game Day, built by the Home Depot, Saturdays at 9 a.m. on ESPNU and at 10 a.m. on ESPN.
In Antwerp, Belgium, every diamond is unique, each with its own story. Holton's Jewelry offers you the rare opportunity to be a part of that story by traveling halfway across the world to choose your diamond directly from Antwerp's famed diamond cutters. Come in now before we head overseas, and you can secure your own hand-picked diamond from the city that has made diamonds sparkle for centuries. Experience the romance of an Antwerp diamond, only at Holton's Jewelry in downtown Winona.
Get ready for thrills.
Oh, look at the move!
And emotion.
You think he's fired up?
Like you've never seen before.
Ow! Are you kidding me?
The excitement of Big Ten football plays all season long, only on BTN.
So here at HBC, ever since we gave Eric the pseudonym Duke of the Dunk, which was a joke, by the way, it's all gone to his head. The guy won't even answer to his own name anymore. Watch this. Hey, Eric. Lear. Eric. Eric. Lear. Eric Lear, right here. Get that out of here, Eric Lear. Hello. Eric Lear, hit me. Eric. Lear. Lear. Hey, Duke.
Jeez, Chad, don't sneak up on me like that.
And we're back here on the Cardinals Nest. Dean Beckman along with Sports Information Director Donny Nadeau here on HBC. Thanks for watching. This is the sports show devoted exclusively to St. Mary's University athletics. Joining us now, Gia Puch and also Kevin Landrum. Gia from the women's golf team. Kevin is the head coach for both the women and men's golf team at St. Mary's. Gia, Kevin, thanks for being on the show here today. And Gia, let's start with you. You're from Illinois, so tell us where in Illinois and how you got to be such a good golfer, all the years of practice there, and then how you came to St. Mary's and what your major is.
Okay.
A lot of questions all rolled into one. Let's see
Yes.
if you can remember them all.
I'm from the northwest suburbs of Chicago. My entire family plays golf. my brothers, my sisters, my cousins, my grandma. So it's just kind of been something that we've grown up with.
Blood, yeah.
Since I was 7 years old, we've all been playing. My cousins all played Division I golf. So I enjoyed golf, but I also played a lot of other sports too, so I wasn't quite as good as them because that's all they focused on. But I'm glad I turned out like this. I actually came to St. Mary's because I thought I was going to play hockey. And I was really interested in hockey, and Minnesota's a great place to come and do that. So I came and took a visit, and I met the golf coach there, who at the time was Jen Trevick. And she introduced me to the golf team, and I thought, you know what, I want to do this instead. So that's kind of where it ended up, and I'm so glad it happened like this, and love it.
So you're swinging a club instead of a stick. Right?
Yeah.
And your major at St. Mary's?
Oh, I'm a criminal justice in Spanish.
Okay, great.
So.
And Kevin, you're not a stranger to St. Mary's, as Dean said in the first segment. You're the assistant men's basketball coach, and you also were the assistant golf coach before you took over the head coaching position. What's the difference, the biggest difference for you from being an assistant coach to taking over the program as the head coach?
It's probably just the kind of Monday to Friday detail type things. My weekends haven't changed. Whether I'm with the men or the women, it's still the exact same thing as when I was the assistant. But it's just choosing the tournaments, paperwork, getting lineups in, kind of all the little detail stuff. That's the only major difference. And then, of course, I do have to recruit and then make decisions as how big I want my roster to be, who goes each week. So there's some differences, but not a huge change. So it was a pretty smooth transition.
Yeah, I was going to say, when we first started taping the show this year, and we would be talking about the women's and men's golf teams, and I would be noticing, well, they're playing at different places. How is Kevin in two places at one time? So the logistics become a bit of a problem, but you have a great assistant coach in Ryan Egan to help you out with that.
Yeah, Ryan's been a great addition, along with his hockey background. It's amazing how many hockey guys also play golf.
And
or
women too.
Like Gia. So it's been nice because he has a relationship with some of the guys on the golf team already. So he's gone with them every weekend, and then I've taken the women. Next year we might flip-flop.
Sure.
We just thought we'd do it this way this year. I had a pretty good relationship with all the women, and then he knew some of the men. So
sure,
that's kind of how we got to that.
Talk a little bit, Gia, about the season so far, because really it's been a great season for you guys. And one of the things for you probably is that you haven't had to shoulder the load as you have your first 3 years. And it's interesting, Coach Landrum and I were talking the last meet that your score actually didn't count in one of the rounds, and that's never happened in the 4 years you were here. So is it kind of nice this year that you don't feel like maybe you have to shoot an 82 every time out?
It is a nice feeling. I know after I had a bad first 9, because that's kind of what happened last week, is my first 9 was just awful, and I came at the end and I asked Kevin how all the other girls did, and he's throwing out these low 40s numbers, and I'm getting excited for my team, and I was just excited, you know, that I could go out and play, and I didn't have to worry about, you know, if my score was just, if I didn't get any better on the back 9, it didn't matter because my girls were just doing so well. It didn't matter. So it's kind of a nice relief a little bit, but it's just so exciting how we're getting so good, and our expectations are just so much better for ourselves this year than they have been in the past. So we just always want to keep doing well, and it's been really exciting.
Experience benefits you. A lot of the ladies have played at least. You know, Jenna's a sophomore, so she played last year. Junior. So she played 2 years, and then Lauren and you and Rachel. I mean, you guys have been around. Does it make it easier each year because you've played a lot of the same tournaments and know the courses a little bit?
Definitely. It definitely does. The Bunker Hills for conference championships, that'll be my 10th time playing it on the first day of conference. So I can tell you that course backwards and forwards now. Eau Claire, we play there every year, so I know what holes are going to be difficult. I know how the greens are going to work, and that's how all the girls are. So I think the more you play, there really is a difference between freshmen and seniors on the golf team, because we just know how these courses work after playing them for so long and what to expect.
Kevin, how about preparation from a coaching standpoint? Do you guys do any mental imagery? Do you talk about the courses? What's your role in terms of, other than the windmill on 17? What's your role in terms of what do you need to do?
You're probably going to laugh at this, but they actually make a CD, and we jam. And we just turn the music up and just kind of get kind of a flow going that way and get relaxed and comfortable, and then they go out and take care of the rest. We try not to think too much or You know, the ride there, I just let them do whatever they need to do to get ready. I don't want to mess with their, you know, get inside their head too much. So we really just listen to music, and we kind of go from there. But like she talked about familiarity with some of the courses, I can say, you know, on this 9, this hole, and most of them, yep, I know which hole you're talking about. So that's a little bit of an advantage with having seniors and people that have played some of these courses, you know, so many times. Gia, Rachel, Lauren, and Jenna, those 4 have been a part of, I believe, 3 of the top 4 two-day scores in school history. So we've got a very experienced group this year.
Yeah. Hate to put you on the spot, but expectations, I know you have the Viterbo Invitational this weekend, but then next weekend's the conference championships, and that's the big one. Expectations, goals, what have you guys set personally and then as a team?
Oh, we're going to do some damage. We're not going to win, most likely. That's never really our goal. I mean, Gustavus, Carleton, St. Olaf, they're just too good for us. But that's okay, because we have different goals in that, and we are definitely going to do some damage. And there's teams that we know that we're going to beat, and we're going to try to beat them, and that's kind of our competition. Get low scores, 80s, lots of 80s, lots of scores in the 80s. I've been toying with all conference for a few years now, so that's my personal goal, is to finally get that, because it's my last chance.
Time to get over that hump.
Yeah, I just miss it, just barely every time. So
you had the opportunity this last weekend at the Division III Midwest Classic to play with most of the conference teams. Is that a good measuring stick? Is that something that you use in terms of, okay, we've beat these teams, we need to catch these teams? How do you approach that in terms of the fact that you've seen some of the teams?
For me personally, I kind of looked at it as a tournament within the tournament. I didn't really talk to them much about it, but I kind of was keeping track of where everybody was at. There's a couple teams I think we can catch. They played really well. Us finishing the last 2 holes on Saturday in the complete darkness definitely was not an advantage. So yeah, in my 3 years now going into the 4th conference tournament, we've moved up every single year in the standings, so that's something I'd like to continue doing.
And then Kevin, on the men's side, Tim Wolford has been playing great for you, and I think probably the goal there too is just to consistently get a few more players in the 70s rather than the low 80s.
Well, right now I'd like to get a couple more guys in the low 80s. But yeah, the consistency's been our word from the first time I talked to Donny 4 or 5 weeks ago. And I'm still waiting. I'm still trying to find the right combination. And yeah, we just need to be consistent from day 1 to day 2, and day 2 to now day 3 at the conference tournament. So hopefully we can finally put it all together at the meet that counts the most.
You know, I found it interesting when we talked after last weekend. You talked about how your team wasn't fazed by the conditions. And can you kind of elaborate on what you said to me the other day?
Well, on the women's side, we've had Gia was on the 18th tee, and Jenna had about a 120-yard shot. Eau Claire, we had a 40-minute delay. It rained last weekend for 7 or 8 holes. No matter what has happened, what Mother Nature has thrown at us, we haven't had any excuses. We're not going to use that as an excuse. We've gone out. We actually played better in the rain than we did not in the rain this past weekend.
Well, and you know, with so many experienced golfers like Gia and Rachel and Jenna, it's great to hear that they're able to block that out. And you know, they teach the younger players to do that too. So we're out of time, unfortunately, here on the Cardinals Nest. But Gia, Kevin, thanks so much for being on the show, and good luck. And Gia, good luck making all conference here.
Thanks. I hope so.
All right, thanks for watching the Cardinals Nest here on HBC. Be sure to tune in again next week for another Cardinals Nest on Channel 25.